Welcome to this first episode analysis video for Netflix's Shadow and Bone, where I will go over the episode, talk about what I think, and compare it to the books. These videos are going to be spoiler-free for what is not included in this episode. So if you haven't read the books or watched the next episodes, you'll be fine. If you're looking for a spoiler-free review of the whole season, I have that video too, so you can check that out. If you're new here, I have tons of Grishaverse videos on this channel. Make sure to check them out, and also let me know if there's anything you'd like to see, and I'll see if I can make it happen. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the first episode. I love that they have these different animations for the opening credits of each episode. So this one seems to be inspired by the Inferni with all the fire effects going on. So they start the show with a voiceover where Alina says she found out that the darkness was a place full of monsters. This is not from the books, but this is actually the initial idea that inspired Leigh Bardugo. She started writing these books starting with the question, what if darkness was a place? The books actually started Mal and Alina's childhood, so there's sort of a prologue in the book. Here they sort of put parts of that throughout the episode, but they do make some additions, so we'll talk about those as they come. We start with Alina drawing a map. She's a cartographer assistant. She is also half Shu in the show. Shuhan is in the south of Ravka, and it's inspired by China. The relationships with the Shu are tense. The Shu like to experiment on the Grisha, so Ravka isn't happy about that. That's what she means when she says she looked like the enemy. I like the change actually. I think it brings some complexity to her character. She's already having problems belonging. I think that is in line with her character arc. In the book, she's from a border town anyway, so it makes sense to me that an orphan from a border town would be mixed race. They have this fun line where she says, "The fold ate your parents." Most of these scenes from their childhood are added scenes. In the book, it's just a short chapter where the Grisha come to test them. Then we don't even find out about the result. In the next chapter, they're in the army and we understand they weren't Grisha. They have tons of exposition here. They're also trying really hard to justify why Alina become a cartographer. Honestly, that's just a super random thing in the end. She doesn't really use her map making skills or anything. It is just what it is. Here is our first look at the fold. I think they did a great job with this. It looks dark and scary. Also, if you look at the edges, it feels like tendrils reaching in. Very cool. They're introducing this idea of a saint who can summon the sun here. This sun summoner myth thing is, I guess, implied in the books, but not to this extent. Honestly, when I had read the books, I had assumed there used to be sun summoners, but there haven't been in a while. I just assumed it's a rare type of Grisha power, just like shadow summoning. Here, they're pushing it really hard on the myth and unique power side. I like the books version a bit better, honestly. This leans more into the chosen one trope, which I hate. Here she is like, Mal isn't afraid of anything. The show downplays girls having a crush on Mal, but in the books, everyone has a crush on Mal. He's super popular with girls. We don't see much of that in the show. Here's another scene from their childhood. They're being bullied by the other kids. What I don't like about this is in the books, they actually have good memories in the orphanage. I love that it's not a stereotypical sad orphanage in the books. Here, it's more typical Hollywood orphanage, I guess. They have this fighting scene with Mel. This is actually kind of foreshadowing future events. I won't go into the details, but I think it's a good addition here, even though it seems kind of random. Then there's this Grisha bullying the soldiers. I guess they want to show the tension between the first and the second armies. So the first army of Ravka is regular soldiers, whereas the second army is Grisha. The Grisha pretty much live in luxury, whereas the regular soldiers don't. By the way, I see people getting confused about the Grisha, and they're just what the magic users are called in this world. All magic users are Grisha. I have a detailed video on the magic system and the orders of the Grisha, so make sure to check that out if you'd like to learn more about that. Here we see Alina and Mal meeting for the first time. I love what they did with their relationship. Their chemistry is great. It feels like they really do care about each other. In the book, it feels like Mal takes Alina for granted for a long time. So I really appreciate the change here. They mention the currency of Ketterdam, Kruga. Sort of a quick exposition here because we're going to Ketterdam very soon. I love what they did with Dubrov and Mikhail. They are so much more fun here. They really feel like close friends. I care about them much more in the show than in the books. This whole drafting scene is added. In the book, it's just they're on a mission crossing the fold. I don't think you need to justify soldiers going on a mission. They have these propaganda posters all around. I love Alina's small reaction to the poster here. It's subtle, but it makes a difference. So Mal gets drafted and he says, if it works, I'll get to visit Ketterdam. And we are in Ketterdam. We're going to meet the crows for the first time. I love the set design here. It looks so distinct and the cinematography is phenomenal. The first crow we meet is Jesper. We take a look at his gunslinging skills and his gambling, and suddenly the infamous crow cane of Kaz Brecker. The casting in this show is amazing. This interaction about the painting is fantastic. I love it so much. This is actually very close to a scene that happens in Six of Crows. Somebody stole a decapel and Kaz is acting like he has no idea who did it. Then we see it on his wall. It's acted brilliantly by Freddie Carter here. And it's a fun Easter egg for the book fans because Kaz will meet the owner of this painting in the future. So it's not a random scene. They don't mention Kaz's gloves much in the show, but he wears gloves. He's called Dirty Hands. There are lots of rumors about his hands, so this is sort of a nod at that, but we won't get to dive into it. And we meet Inej here. There's a similar scene in the book, but Inej actually sees Kaz's hands in that scene. Maybe this is a time when even Inej hasn't seen his hands yet. She brings the info on Alina here. The timeline is a bit confusing in this episode, so everything that happens with the crows in this episode happens after everything that happens in Ravka. The events are out of order. It's not really clear, so in case you got confused, that's why. Here, Inej tries to get Kaz pay the indenture of another girl, just like he did for Inej, and here we see Kaz call Inej an investment, basically, which the book fans will recognize. The other thing is, it looks like Kaz owns the Crow Club here, and he's paying for Inej's indenture. In the book, someone called Per Haskell owns the club, and Kaz is one of his lieutenants. He buys Inej's indenture because Kaz asks him to, but this is a huge change. It does add more danger to Inej's situation because she is still owned by the menagerie, basically. If you haven't understood what the menagerie is, it's a brothel, by the way. It might not have been clear in the show since they don't show the menagerie much. On the other hand, I don't know what would happen if Kaz paid all and owned Inej's indenture, because in the books, it's per Haskell. But here it would be Kaz holding Inej's freedom. But we'll see about that in the future, I guess. Mal is going to steal some Grisha food for her. So they added these scenes to show that Mal and Alina will go to great lengths to help each other. Here Mal is taking a big risk stealing from the Grisha for Alina, but ends up meeting Zoya. This is the first time we meet Zoya. She is an important character. You can also see Zoya's amplifier on her wrist. Here they share a cute moment where Alina is a bit jealous that Mal flirted with a Grisha, and Mal is like, Grisha women scare me. Then he tells her they did need him on the mission. It wasn't a mistake, so he is going into the fold. He says, I'll find my way back to you. We're back in Ketterdam. They're trying to figure out ways to cross the fold. We get a clear look at the crow cane. I'm not a huge fan of gold cane with emerald eyes. I would have liked a silver cane with ruby eyes, but it's just me. And we get our first look at Pekka Rollins here. I imagined him to be this sleazy, obnoxious guy who took advantage of helpless people, but they made him into this incredibly menacing guy. He is so scary here, which I think makes him a much better nemesis for Kaz. Although I must say, this was just too easy. If he can just take anyone's club like that, why doesn't he? Why wait until now? But still, I like how creepy he is. Here we see the Darklings coach for the first time. They call him General Kurgan in the show. I like it better. The Darkling always sounded like a silly name to me. In the show, it's mostly used by his enemies in almost like a derogatory way, actually. Or maybe something to the effect of boogeyman. Either way, I like this change. I guess Alexi has a crush on Alina? Anyway, so they added a scene here where Alina burns some maps so she can join Mal on the mission. Again, to emphasize that they're inseparable and will do whatever it takes to be together. Here, Mal tells Alina to tell them she's sick, and she says she's never that sick. So this idea doesn't come across in the show. Because Alina doesn't use her powers, she's always kind of sickly. Using your Grisha powers make you stronger, and if you are a particularly powerful Grisha, it also extends your life greatly. We get a nice look at the skiff, and we can see the Lantsov double eagle symbol on the sails. Lantsovs are the royal family of Ravka. Here we can see a Grisha squaller operating the skiff. I love that Alina's scarf, which is blue gold by the way, flies towards the Darkling. It's such a fun shot, and we see the Darkling's back, and in we go. I love how they made the fold. It's so quiet and creepy and dark. This whole blue light thing is not in the books, but it's fine, I guess. Here, an idiot lights a lantern even though they were told not to, and it attracts the Volcra. In the trailers, I thought this guy was Alexi, because in the book Alexi dies here, but it's someone else here. The Volcra look cool, not great, not terrible, but acceptable quality at this budget level. But the dramatic effect of the scene is strong and very similar to what happens in the book. Alexi jumps off the skiff here, and Mal is captured by a Volcra. Alina grabs a rifle and shoots. "I'll meet you in the meadow," Mal says. Then a Volcra grabs Alina and she lights up. I think in the book she lights up when the Volcra grabs Mal, actually. So I think what happens in the book is the Volcra attacks Alina, Mal shoots the Volcra, then the Volcra attacks Mal, then Alina lights up. Here they change the order of the things a bit. We see West Ravka here. This whole West Ravka thing with General Zlatan is completely added. I don't think it adds anything dramatically. I think it makes some things worse. I'll talk about those in later episodes, but they mostly use this for the Crow subplot. Alexi emerges from the fold here. So they get this heartrender. She was so prominent in the trailers, I had assumed she was an important character, but she turned out to be super minor. So it turns out they captured Alexi and brought him here. Apparently it takes 2 weeks to get to Canada from West Ravka. It feels like it's much farther away to me, but I guess not. So the others with the skiff returned back to Ravka where they started from. Here they use the Heartrender's abilities as sort of like a Jedi mind trick. I don't really remember anything like this in the book. I guess they can relax people, but not like this. But if anyone else remembers a moment like this from the books, let me know. They do it quite a lot in the show. I think it makes Heartrenders even more overpowered than they already are. So I'm not crazy about this edition. Here's a cool shot of Alexi looking at the skiff while Alina lights up and obliterates the Volcra. Anyway, Alexi tells them everything and gets killed. I like that Kaz doesn't even flinch. The guy is like, the prize is 1 million Kruga, bring me Alina Starkov, if you can figure out a way to get through the fold until dawn. And the episode ends here. I think this was a great first episode. I liked it quite a lot. It stays fairly faithful to Shadow and Bone, but of course the parts with the crows are all added. I think the characters come through well enough because the actors are great. Obviously, the way the crows are introduced in the book is far better since you see them in action. But I thought this was alright too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave a like to let me know. Don't forget to check out my other Grisha videos. And if you'd like to see my analyses on the next episodes, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I am complete. I am complete. I am complete. I am